Going back to you, you said you're 45, but you look 33 without a bucket of makeup.
Yeah, like when I
Yeah,
don't.
that's what you wrote on.
No.
You said you're married, but not legally, because that's stupid.
Yep.
Yeah, you did say you were married for 10 years, but not legally married. So within the church, or?
We went to the little chapel in Vegas. So we just got married for us just to kind of re-solidify our relationship and commitment to each other. And the reason why we didn't do it legally is because I don't need the government tracking our every move. And I'd rather be independent with my own money. He has his money. Mm-hmm. If anything were to go sour or south between the two of us, he can go his way, I can go my way. Mm-hmm. We live in California where it's divided 50-50. My ambitions and pursuits with my career could catapult me to be a multimillionaire. And then he's a musician, and the same thing goes for him. So why muck up our money together if, especially, nothing is forever, nothing is for certain. Mm-hmm. So I'd rather, him protect his assets, I protect mine.
Yes.
Now, you said that you're also a recovering sex addict with a high body count. Mm-hmm. And you said you didn't give us an exact number, but you said it was three digits. Yeah. Is that correct? Okay. You said you were dating strange men long before social media existed.
This is true.
You never knew if you would make it home from a date.
This is
and
true.
It was thrilling.
It was because
it was a thrilling time.
Look, as someone who was a sex addict, I was involved in a lot of reckless and very high endangerment situations because of where I came from. I suffered through a lot of childhood trauma, things that were categorically unconceivable for most people. I lost both my parents before I finished high school. I've been on my own since I was 16, been through it all. And with that being said, when you get yourself involved, I was never into alcohol, I've never been into drugs. None of those things were my vices. Gambling, nothing.
Can we back up just a second in your story? Because you were on your own since you were 16. Sorry to hear that, by the way. That's got to suck. But
thanks.
You were saying earlier that you think that kids should dismiss their parents' advice. But if your parents weren't in your life when you were that young, wouldn't you have preferred to have had them around to get their advice?
No, because my parents were both reckless people. My mother didn't give us any kind of structure. She didn't give us any kind of rules. If I was going based off of her actions and things that she was doing, then I would have just ended up just like her. And
yeah, sure. But I mean, surely you understand that most parents don't do that. They're not. They love their children. They definitely don't let them move out of the house when they're 16 years old and do all this, right?
I mean, yeah, in a perfect world, you're absolutely right. But
that's most people. Most people's parents, I think, genuinely care about them.
Okay, sure.
You don't think so?
That's not been my personal experience, so I can't say for everybody else. I know a lot of other people who've had similar experiences to mine where their parents weren't necessarily giving them structure and rules and kind of guidelines in life. So everyone's journey is different, and
I agree with that.
And I was being a little bit more sarcastic, not necessarily,
Yeah, if you're raised in a two-parent household, generally speaking, the outcomes are the things that you might consider good outcomes, higher education, more stability, less promiscuity, things like this. Those are generally considered to be decent outcomes, I would say.
True.
And they tend to go up astronomically if you have two parents in the household for the entirety of the child being in the household. So, it seems like that's an optimal way to go, right?
I would say it's also nurture versus nature, because your environment and where you live and where you grow up also have a huge impact on that. I've found in my personal experience that a lot of people from bigger cities and New York, I'm from New York originally, people more in the city are going to have a completely different type of lifestyle than someone who grows up in Montana or Colorado even. I feel like more of the core traditional values are still in the Midwest. People attribute a lot more of that in the middle. I think there's a lot more lawlessness.
But even in those liberal, progressive cities, having a two-parent household still is going to lead to what are generally considered good outcomes for children.
I didn't have the benefit of having that. I always grew up in a one-person household.
I understand you didn't, but why would you prescribe to others not to listen to their parents if their outcomes seem to be so much better if they do?
I was fucking around.
She's a comedian.
I'm a comedian. I'm a stand-up comic.
So you said you were a sex addict. I'd like to get.
That's why women shouldn't be comedians. No, I'm kidding. I'm joking.
Sorry. I like you, Andrew. You're all right in my book.
I'm a likable guy.
So you said you were a sex addict. I'd like a little more scope on that. So what does that look like for you?
A sex addict was someone who was reckless in promiscuity. You know what I mean? Like I sleep with the first person who was into me. If I was into them, obviously. Like I had my choice in who I wanted to sleep with or to even engage in any kind of sexual activity, because body count doesn't necessarily mean penetration for all of them, obviously. But with that being said, I would use sex as my coping mechanism. If I was sad, if I was depressed, if I was angry, if I was happy, sex was my go-to thing to release that, to heighten that. Like if I had a good show or something, I'm gonna go fuck somebody because it was a good show. If I was depressed about a show, I'd go fuck somebody to make myself feel better.
Okay.
That's what that looked like.
So let's say in a day, what's the most amount of people you had sex with in a day?
Ooh, that's a dirty question. I don't know, a couple, maybe 2, 3 in a day.
2 or 3. What about in like a week? What's the most in a week?
Ooh. Man, I don't know if I remember that. This was way back in like 2002, 2003.
Give us a range.
In a week, I don't know. Could be anywhere between 5 and 10 in a week.
5 and 10. Okay. What about in a month?
Well, if we're taking
the most in a month.
The most in a month, maybe 15.
Okay.
In a month.
All right. I was just trying to get a scope or sense of the extent of the sex addiction.